extremely excited to have been given the opportunity to come and speak to you today about what I consider to be the biggest stunt on Earth.
There's actually a major health crisis today.
Aging is a process that goes on throughout life, even starting before we're born, and it is simply the accumulation of damage in the body, in the human body or in the body of any other living animal. Aging is initially harmless. That's why those of you who are 40 years old are still working pretty much as well as those of you who are only 25 years old. But aging eventually overwhelms the normal operation of the human body, and that's why we get...
To print organs, what we do is we actually three-dimensionally configure what the patient's organ should be like. We then use that information to feed into a computer that will actually generate a path for printing. It's like printing a 50-page document, but each layer is actually a layer of cell instead of a sheet of paper. We use many different strategies really to try to create solid organs, and one of them is actually to just create the organ one layer at a time. Another strategy is to actually take a donor organ that we take the cells out of and repopulate with the patient's own cells. And another strategy is actually to just print the organ. And that's actually what we showed today, is how can we actually use printers that will print these organs one layer at a time. All of these technologies actually involve using the patient's own cells. So we take a piece of tissue from the same patient, usually less than half the size of a postage stamp. We then tease the cells apart from the same patient. We expand those cells outside the body in large quantities, and we can then place those cells back into the patient once we engineer the organs. We are still very early in this work in terms of printing organs. We've actually have done some preclinical work with these printed organs, but someday we will be able to do this in patients and help alleviate some of the challenges we have today with organ shortage.
So I think it's all about this. I think it's that aging is so horrible, so scary, that we have found it necessary to put it out of our minds and pretend that it's not horrible at all. And it doesn't matter how we do that, so long as we can, so long as we succeed in tricking ourselves into the idea that aging is a good thing, even though it doesn't look like a good thing. That made perfect sense. It was a rational thing to do until very recently. Because until very recently, nobody had any idea what to do about aging. But now we do. Now we are within a reasonable distance, within striking distance, of developing medicine that really brings aging under the same level of medical control that we have already today for most infectious diseases, like, tuberculosis or whatever. It's like this. People will refuse to think about whether it's actually a good idea to defeat aging, because they say, well, it doesn't really matter whether it's a good idea or not, does it? Because we're never going to do it. But the same people, at the same time, will also say they will refuse to think about whether it's actually likely that we could do anything about aging anytime soon, because who cares, because it's a bad idea. Right? So the pessimism about the desirability and the pessimism about the feasibility join together to perpetuate each other. And that's why I have to give these talks about why it's so important to do this.